Okay, so we are getting ready to return this car to Vince. So we'll go through what happened. It was a 64-inch car. Show you a picture of what it looked like before.
A quick before of the front and the rear.
You can see what it looks like now. We did the springs in the upper 72-inch control arms in orange. Got the deviant lower control arms. We've got the CA Tech shock tower brace, and hidden under there, back and tucked in, is the double shear kit from CA Tech as well. We powder coated the rings on these rims, and we put some new rock crawler style tires on it to replace his other ones. Out in the rear, we powder coated and put these HCR Sportline trailing arms, the NRP links, CA Tech limit straps all around. Powder coated those springs orange. Got the wheels, Nitro Racing Products radius rods and radius rod plate. We did an Assault Industries toe link double shear kit on it. Rhino 2.0 axles all the way around as part of the 72-inch conversion. And we are about done. And I think this car is going to have a lot of miles of really good riding with no problems. So car looks good and it's ready to go back to its owner. We will go down to Pismo Beach. You'll see some of a video of us riding it around. You know, we bring a car back to a customer. Pismo's not too far. Always good to take it out and go for a test drive. If there's any problems, any squeaks, any, you know, whatever, we're going to make it right. Make sure it's good. Make sure the steering is lined up the way it should. We don't have any clunks or bangs. And he's going to take his car home. I also want to note what a beautiful trailer he has this thing on. So he left the trailer here while we were working on his car. That's as nice a trailer as I've seen, I'll be honest with you. That is pretty sweet. You know, I like people who really take care of their stuff, and you know, they're not, you don't buy a $40,000, $35,000 car or whatever and then put it on a $500 trailer. So that's pretty cool as well. Hopefully he's happy with it. I guess we will see tomorrow. Okay, we are out at Pismo, and we were fortunate enough. So here's our 2021 XDS 64-inch converted to a 72-inch, and a friend came out and brought his XRS that came stock as a 72-inch. We're gonna kind of walk around and look at some of the similarities and differences. You know, both of them have been customized. You notice he's got the stock arms. He put the taco kit on the bottom. Orange springs. He actually has some nice stuff on here. He's got the CT Raceworks double shear shock kit on the front. He's got the CT Raceworks installed on the bottom there, the bulkhead kit. You know, and over here we got the CA Tech, another great company, both great companies. And you know, we did a little extra stuff. You know, we did this in orange, just a little different. I think that's kind of a 2022 style thing. He's running 32-inch paddles, and he's out here just trying out on his 31-inch rock crawling tires. So they're pretty similar cars in a lot of respects. Walk around and look at them. You know, his has got the orange springs on back in the DS, and you can see a little difference. You notice the difference in the shocks. He's got the remote reservoir, the big 3-inch shocks, which is nice. You got the stock trailing arms, and over here we got the, you know, the HCR, and we did the springs in orange with the limit straps. But really, as you look at these two cars, you know, the 64 to 72 conversion, now that it's done, you know, probably has better trailing arms. Clearly, radius rods and radius rod plate have been upgraded. Both cars have a lot of stuff that's been upgraded in a similar fashion. He's strengthened his lower fronts, as I showed you earlier, and we are checking it out. So I'm sure my friend over here has got more. He says he's got a ton more stuff he wants to do to his car, but kind of cool just to compare, you know, what you can do. So enjoy the video, and we're gonna go do some more riding.
Okay, watch a little video. The wife's converted car running around with the XRS, our friend that was there. And I'll tell you why Vince wasn't out there. When he brought the car to us, when it was assembled, apparently they put the shocks on like they were flipped. I'm not sure why they did that. He thought it was stock that way. So after we went out for the test drive, the shocks, and I thought this would happen. I didn't want to cut his plastics or clear the shocks, thinking that, well, if it came stock that way, you shouldn't have to cut the plastic. But we went out and the plastic was hitting, started to bend it a little bit. So he didn't come out for our second ride here. We actually brought the video, and we're going to go ahead and trim those fender or those little areas out so that his flipped shocks are not hitting on the plastic. So we did have a good ride. I was kind of bummed that he didn't get to come out on the second part. We really didn't have something to really cut it neatly, and Vince nice enough volunteered to go ahead and do that. It was a huge deal. But yeah, got a little shots of us riding a Pismo, and you know, away we go. But the good news is other than that, the car ran great. Loved it. So at least I'll say that he loved it. Speak for himself, but yeah, I'm super happy with how that turned out. So enjoy that little video, and we'll get on to the sort of what happened behind the scenes.
What's up? So today, I had a customer drop off this car, 2021 XDS Max Turbo RR. Really nice car. Bought the car, decided he might want to go a little wider, California, of course. So brought the car in, and we are going to convert this car over to a 72. So over there, we got a pile of boxes, stuff. And up here, we have all the goodies to turn his car into a 72. So we've got 72-inch radius rods. We've got some sway bar links. He bought a nice pull plate. We got a smoking deal on these deviant lower control arms, because the lower control arms turn out to be the ones that are problematic on the 72. And then over here, new radius rods. Up here, we have a set of rear and front CA Tech limit straps. And while he was at it, because he was tearing it apart, we're putting in the shock tower support, and we're putting in the bulkhead double shear kit, all done in that nice desert tan by CA Tech to match his current frame color, the tan. We also have the brackets, which are going to get powder coated from HCR, that we're going to use to adjust his shocks to make it a better car. So some of the changes you're going to see in the car. So, you know, this one came with the all black front. So you're going to have the upper control arms replaced with ones that are in the Can-Am red. We're going to repowder coat the front springs in the Can-Am red. You're going to see the rear springs over here are going to go from the desert tan to the Can-Am red, sort of a la 2022 style. So you're going to see a few little changes in color, nothing dramatic, but just some upgrades to personalize this Can-Am to his tastes. Okay, so here's a problem I wanted to document when I was working on my customer's car. And that is the massive over-torquing of the bolts that hold this shock tower on. Okay, let's continue this video about the over-torqued shocks. So not only were these shocks over-torqued, they were over-torqued, as I talked about earlier, in the wrong direction. Let me show you what happens when you over-torque your shocks and you put them in and you flip them in the wrong direction. First of all, you see that it rubs right here. Second of all, you should be able to see on the back side of the shock right there where it was rubbing. So every time this shock was cycling up and down, it was on that thing, grinding into that, giving that groove. Pop these rubber things out, which I'm going to try to push back in place. See if I need to replace them. I'm sure my customer is not happy about that. I sent him a video of what I thought was some pretty shoddy assembly work, whether that occurred at the dealer or the factory. Either way, cautionary note, make sure you put things on right, and that you make sure things are clearance, and you make sure these shocks have a little bit of wiggle room and they can go up and down without doing this kind of stuff. Okay, so here's the front end taken apart, what it looks like. You know, you got your 64-inch width A-arms on there, and we're gonna let you check that out and give you a nice view of what that looks like, and then we're gonna cut to what it looks like once we get it all put back together with the 72-inch arms. Show you some measurements. And here we are in the rear with the 64-inch, about to take all this apart. So next time you see this rear end view, we will have put the 72-inch suspension on. You can see the difference. Well, the front end is torn down, so we are going to start the rebuilding process. A couple notes about working on Can-Am X3s. You know, if you're going to have a shop, you got to have the right parts. You need a press. Right here I'm pressing in a ball joint, lower ball joint on the deviant arms. Okay, you can see I had put upper ball joints in. I was kind of explaining here, they didn't press in with the force that I wanted them to, so I ended up taking those out. I called the customer, told them they weren't what I thought was adequate. He bought some NRP upper ball joints that have a threaded cap that goes on top instead of that cheesy just snap ring. And so we put some really nice upper ball joints in those arms before we put them back on, and that was really the right call, and so we're happy about that. Just a quick note on some tool stuff. You know, have axle pullers, have the right kind of nuts and bolts when you're working on stuff. Use good tools, have presses, have lifts. You know, if you're gonna do work on your car, do it right. Or of course, have a professional like myself do it. A couple things to point out in this part of the video. So we've got the HCR drop down bracket in, attach the shock up here, lowers it down. So this is a CA Tech. This is a standard. This is exactly how it would hook up to a 72-inch machine, showing you just exactly how much travel down this limit strap would allow on a 72-inch machine. And you can see that by moving the shock down, the shock, it looks like it's got about, you know, let's go another ½ inch of travel. So this strap, which will stretch some more under a real load, will stretch a little bit more, but you can see that it is going to limit the level. But you can also see that the amount of down travel is going to be essentially the same as a 72, or actually it'll achieve the same down travel as a 72-inch, which is a good thing. Of course, there won't be as much up travel, which is always good because you're not hitting on the bottom of your frame. So just wanted to document that. Okay, so I have put the radiator back on. I'm going to just make this quick note. A lot of people want to do this stuff and they don't want to take the radiator out. And I will just tell you, the 15 minutes it takes to take the radiator out, pop a few little things out of there and disconnect the wires, well worth it. You will save hours of time working on your Can-Am by taking that extra 15 minutes. And you might think like, oh, I don't want to take the radiator out, but just do it. It just makes things so much cleaner, so much easier. Ability to torque bolts, ability to get stuff in. You know, you can try it without doing it. But the reality is make it easy on yourself. The front end is back together, except for the springs, which we're waiting to get out of powder coat in Can-Am red. So, quick look. Loving the Can-Am red grill with the new Can-Am red upper A-arms, and those springs are really going to set that off to go with the seats and the other Can-Am red accents on the hood and whatnot. The CA Tech shock tower kit is in. The 64 to 72 conversion is looking good. Everything is great. You know, I got some detail stuff, you know, I mean, torqued all the bolts to spec, put all these nice little rivet nuts and put screws in there so if you ever had to take those off. You know, some covers on the brake lines. And we'll spend some time setting the correct height. I think I'm going to go about 15.5 inches height-wise. I'm going to check how that looks on the shocks as well to get it up, set it up just right. Probably 15.5 in front, 16 in back. And she's looking good. So
let's sum it up with a little talk about cost. So what did he have? $2,000 in labor for me to do that work, bring it down to the beach, take the parts to and from powder coating, and do all the work on it, which I think is a pretty good deal. I'm really not in this to get rich. I'm in it because I love the sport, and someday I'm going to retire, and this is what I want to do in retirement because I love working on these cars. So you might ask, other than the $2,000 labor, what did he have to convert it over? I think he got a good deal on those lower front A-arms, maybe $450 for the set. Add to that the uppers that we had to source were another, I think, $150 or $200. He had $700 in powder coating. He had $1,300 for the rear trailing arms. Another $800 or $900 for the radius rods. And he had another, let's see, it was a couple $100 for the upper ball joints and $150 for the rear toe link kit. You know, so all in all, he sourced the parts that he did. I'm going to guess $4,000 in parts or somewhere around there. You know, and he had $1,000 in the axles. But what you really talk about is he now has better than stock 72 lower control arms, better than stock trailing arms, better than stock radius rods, better than stock radius rod plate, all the upgrades that he did to the strength in the front. So what he really ended up with was a 64-inch car that now really is going to perform super badass, and from a strength standpoint, it's all upgraded, it's all bulletproof. It's not going to bottom out the same way that a 72 does. He could always someday go in and source himself some of the big 3.0 shocks in the rear and get some better shocks in front. But realistically, that car is ready to go and take a pounding and keep on going. So great job.